In this video, I'm going to show you guys some of the coolest mods that have recently released for Fallout 4. Many of these actually have a tactical focus, which is probably pretty fitting for most of you. I think a lot of the mods around Fallout 4 are tactical weapon mods, and in this video, I'm actually going to have several things that will augment probably your existing experiences, and if you're an active player of this game, I bet most of you will download at least one of these. If you guys do enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe. I actually have a bit of a different Fallout 4 mods video coming in a couple days, so you can look forward to that. But otherwise, starting things off, let's first look at the Accuracy International L96A1. This was a recently released mod for Fallout 4 that adds in, as you can tell, a brand new sniper rifle into the game. The L96 is pretty well known. You've seen it appear in several different video games at this point, and probably are quite familiar with it yourself. In Fallout 4, it makes its appearance in a pretty similar form to probably how you've seen it in the past. It does feature custom animations, although they're not unique custom animations. It's using an existing animation set that is an aftermarket one, but you might have seen it used by other mods or even downloaded this yourself for the hunting rifle. But all in all, taken together, this mod, as well as some of the other mods it supports, like see-through combat scopes, is a pretty nice package. It's fairly simple with not a ton in the way of customization options. You have a few different scopes, as well as a silenced barrel, but that's the bulk of the modifications outside of receivers. But at the same time, the visuals, animations, and sounds make this one of the cooler sniper rifle mods for Fallout 4, and I can see a lot of you guys really enjoying this one. But what is a good weapon mod without a good armor mod to go along with it? And for this, we do have the Private Military Company. This is actually a really cool mod, and I've been wanting something similar to this for a long time. At its heart, it's actually really simple. It's going to add in this new outfit, as it appears here. It has a fairly barren plate carrier with just a patch, as well as a few magazines attached, but also some knee pads and a hip holster to go along with that. There are several customization options. You could actually change the color of the shirt and the pants, making them either the same of different camos, or you could vary these for some cool customization options. You could also change the patch and make it so some of the equipment is either black or tan. But one of the coolest features, I think, of this mod is you could actually just get this vest as, well, basically just a vest. You can get the full outfit with the Under Armour attached, or alternatively just have the vest and use an Under Armour of your picking, such as one from the variety of mods you probably already have installed. It's fairly simple, but at the same time can make almost any outfit tactical, which fits really well with some of the weapon mods you see getting released for Fallout 4. In the future, I'd love to see further customization options on the vest, maybe change it so you could have different kinds of magazines, not just those pretty standard 5.56 mags, or just some other things you can attach here. But speaking of cool weapon mods, we also do have the custom Mossberg 590A1. This is going to be a new pump action shotgun mod in Fallout 4, and this one's a little rougher on the edges, but at the same time is a pretty cool new addition. Despite featuring quite extensive rail systems, it actually is quite simple. You can attach a silencer, change the ammo type, and then the other basic things like glow sights and the receiver type, but otherwise that's kind of the whole story here. But what it really is a modern take on a pump action shotgun that is very satisfying to use in game. You can actually configure this to be a slam fire shotgun, making it so it's almost semi-automatic, you fire it very quickly, but there are other things like explosive options, making it just a lot of fun to use in game. In the future, I'd obviously love to see all kinds of attachments to fill out those rails with, but as it stands right now, it's a pretty good looking shotgun that will probably accomplish everything you want it to. But a great mod to show off with this new shotgun is True Blood. This is going to be another new blood overhaul mod in Fallout 4, but it's a little different than some of the other ones. It of course comes with your standard visual changes to blood. It looks a bit more reflective, and I think just overall the splatter is a bit more realistic, although of course that is mostly going to be subjective, depending on which blood mod you like the most. But one of the particularly cool features of this one, as you actually do finish off enemies and potentially some of their limbs, you can almost see a splatter effect in real time, which is pretty unique and definitely stands out in combat. This could create its own little splatter around the area, and all around it just makes this one stand out a lot more from some of the others. It also, of course, makes it feel a bit more real and immersive, but naturally these kinds of mods are extremely subjective. I personally like this one. I really like the features it adds to the table, as well as some of the visuals to go along with them, but at the same time, dependent on what you like or dislike, this one could be for you or could not be for you. Then we actually have a few new entries into the modern weapon replacers. This is actually a whole series of mods that basically takes an existing in-game weapon and replaces it with a modded one. Several of these have recently been released, but the one I'm showcasing today is the MP7 replacer because I think a lot of you guys might be interested in this. What it's going to do is take all of the pipe guns in game, so all of the 3 variants of that, that being the regular bolt action and revolver, and every time that would have appeared in Fallout 4, instead, now you're going to see somebody carrying the MP7, which is a really well done weapon mod in its own right. It's a fairly simple mod, but at the same time, if you played Fallout 4 as much as I have, and I'm sure many of you have played it much more than me, the pipe weapons really stand out as some of the lower grade are just redundant and something I don't want to see anymore. This is one of those mods that can actually make that a reality, make it so you see a much more interesting and exciting weapon in the MP7. Then we have what has actually been an extremely long-awaited mod on this channel and probably for many of you. I've shown you screenshots of this over the years, but we finally do have a release for it, that being the Mosin-Nagant Huntress charm. So this is an extremely simple mod. It's just going to add some feathers as well as this charm, almost of a native nature, onto the Mosin-Nagant weapon. We're going to have to download the weapon separately. It's not a standalone weapon, although the Mosin by itself is actually really high quality and a great addition to the game, so if you haven't downloaded it, I would recommend doing that anyway. And then after installing this mod, you're actually going to notice some modifications to that. You'll always just see some of the feathers on it, but if you actually use certain scopes, they will also now have feathers attached, and if you use the short barrel, you'll get the full package here. All around, I personally think in the third person, this looks awesome. This is exactly what I hoped unique weapons would look like in Fallout 4, or really any Fallout game for that matter. It makes your weapon feel special compared to the others, although one of the only downsides, as you could probably tell, is it doesn't look the best in first person. It certainly doesn't look bad, but I would say this is going to be a nice one to give to your companions and look at from that angle. Either way, one of those ones I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for a long time, and it is finally here. Again, unfortunately, this is more of a replacer, so it's not like you could optionally attach these feathers and take them off. They'll kind of always be on certain attachments now. But at the same time, there are other options you can use to get around seeing these all the time. Then we do have the Webley-Fosbery auto revolver, which I'm almost certainly butchering that name. So at first glance, this just looks like another revolver mod for Fallout 4, and on the surface, it almost is. There's not a ton of attachments. You could change the length, you could change which kind of ammo it's using, whether it be like full metal jacket, explosive, or something along those lines. But in game, it actually has several interesting characteristics. This revolver was actually developed to almost be a middle ground in between the unreliable semi-automatic weapon and the more reliable revolver that was slower to fire. As such, in game it does have a high rate of fire and also can be shot fairly far and accurately. But even further, one of the premier aspects of this one is just simply how cool it looks in game. The animations are top notch, whether it be the taking out animation, sprinting animation, or just really any of them. It's very satisfying to use because you're consistently seeing these well done animations. Even further, attaching the explosive variant onto this one and just mowing down enemies really quickly never got old. And this is definitely one of those mods that you might see it once, kind of gloss over it, but I would recommend giving it a chance. It's very satisfying and fun to use in game. But last but not least, to end things off with a little bit of a different mod, we do have Lucky Loot. This is actually a fairly simple mod. In vanilla Fallout 4, when you're lockpicking a container, what actually appears in that container is determined by how difficult it is to lockpick. What this mod's going to do is actually make it so your luck factors into that. So if you're lockpicking a novice container but have a very high luck, the likelihood of getting better loot does increase. And yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. I think it's a really nice implementation, and it's one of those mods that you probably install for a new playthrough and just kind of forget about. It's integrated into the load order, but does add a nice aspect to the game. Otherwise though, that's largely going to wrap it up for the Fallout 4 mods in this video. As I mentioned earlier on, I should have a little bit of a different Fallout 4 modding video coming in the next few days if you guys do want to subscribe and want to see more like that. But before we end things up, I do want to share today's psychology fun fact, and that's actually going to be on a guy you probably know about or have at least heard of, that being Sigmund Freud. I've talked about him several times on the channel in the past, and Freud actually has a really interesting kind of phenomena around the support or appreciation of him. You probably heard in modern times how a lot of Freud's theories have been discarded or discredited. People have thrown aside what he actually said for other things or other explanations of the same phenomena. Although one thing I bet a lot of people didn't realize was that's not really a modern thing. Although while Freud was on the up and up, he definitely did have more supporters, he was never academically supported really overall. It's not like he had a dominant force in psychology that a lot of people supported. Rather, during most of Freud's activity, behaviorism was mostly what people were studying. studying, which doesn't even look at the mind at all. So naturally, Freud, being very focused on the unconscious, was the polar opposite of that. So even though you hear about his stuff getting discredited now or not standing up to the test of time, even at the time, most people in academic psychology kind of wrote him off. In the end, he definitely did have some good contributions, his focus on the unconscious, or even further, how he actually treated people that were perceived to have mental illness. But as far as his theories and ideas, even though they were popular among just everyday people, those not actually working in psychology or doing research, they never ended up being hugely popular academically, and it just was kind of this weird converse. Where in the public sphere, people really loved Sigmund Freud, but on the actual academic sphere, where people are doing psychological research, they didn't really take his theories all that seriously. So yeah, there's a little fun fact about Sigmund Freud. Hopefully you guys found it informative. Otherwise though, as always again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.